Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody tonight? Good. Well, we welcome you for everybody who's here in person, and for those who might be watching later on demand, welcome. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We are so excited to have you. Remember that Roar Weekend is coming up very soon. October 19th is the weekend.
Next week.
Yeah. Next weekend. Not this upcoming weekend, but the weekend after. So make sure you sign up. Get ready for it. Dr. Robert Lairdon's going to be here. He is awesome. He is amazing. Can teach, preach, do all the things. So we're very excited for that. But yeah, we're so excited for you guys to be here tonight. For those of you who are going to be watching on demand later, be sure to check that email that you were sent about what you need to do in order to email myself or office@myroar.org, letting them know that you have watched it. This video should come out here in the next few days. Be ready for you. So as soon as you have access to that, go on there, watch it. Make sure you reach out to office@myroar.org. But any questions before we get started tonight?
No, I just want to make a comment. It's a different class though, but from last week, it's not out yet.
Yes, so they're still working on getting some of the recording stuff done with the anniversary Sunday and everything happening. Yes, no, you're good. You're good. Nope, we haven't sent it out yet. But sound good? Well, no questions. We're ready to roll. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Good evening, everybody. How are we? Everybody got the victory, love Jesus, ready to take over? Well, good. Are y'all ready for a pop quiz? There's not one. Relax. Here's what we're going to do tonight. Pastor Tony is going to come, and we're going to talk a little bit about two things, and I'm going to give you an assignment for the rest of the semester, and it's really simple. You can probably do it in one little sitting, but I want you to put together two things: a budget and a business plan. And if you have a business, you can do it for your business. If you want to have a business, you can do it as a projected business plan for a new business that you would start. Or if you don't, you can maybe create one that you would like to start. And so I want you to put together a business plan. Pastor Tony's going to give you a sample of one tonight that he has done. So you'll have that as a template to go from, so that should make it a lot easier. And then he's also going to go over a budget. And the budget, I would prefer you do a budget for the business. If you want a business or you have a business, do something that would be practical, that would help you. But I'll give you the choice of doing a personal budget if you haven't done that, because one of the biggest challenges that people have today are financial challenges in America. It's one of the biggest challenges. 50% of the divorces, or 50% of marriages end in divorce, and about 80 or 90% of the reason that I have seen over many years of counseling is because of financial challenges. People seem to have months left at the end of the money, and there are reasons for that. But budgeting is a good way to get yourself on track. A lot of times we don't know how much we're spending, that we're just it's money that we could save if we would make some cutbacks. I know I've helped couples with budgets over the years, even this year, several times helping couples when I do marriage counseling, especially when a couple is going to get married. I will go over budgets with them. I talk about budgeting and finances. I have a whole session dedicated to managing your money, and we talk about insurance. We talk about I always implement the 10-10-10-70 plan. 10% tithe, 10% for your retirement, and 10% for emergency fund, and live on the 70%. Now, if it's a new couple, just coming out of school, out of high school, or out of college, that's usually not too difficult because they haven't been making any money and they usually don't have any debt or very little debt. But if you've been living 20 years on your own or married or in a business or whatever, it may be difficult to do that. So I always say, well, start with tithing, do that first, and then start with 1% for your retirement and 1% for an emergency fund, and then raise it to 2% over time, and then 3%, and work up to that. But if you'll set that as a goal, you can get there, and you'll be surprised at what can happen as you do that. So Pastor Tony's going to come, and we're going to do this first and dialogue a little bit, and then we'll jump into the outline. We may not have a lot of time to go over the outline today, but the material is there for you, and we will go from there.
Good evening, everybody. Good to see you guys tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity from our lead pastor tonight to be able to share some thoughts around maximizing your potential. Here we go.
Pastor Tony has an MBA in business, a master's of business that he went to school for and learned how to do.
I earned that.
He earned that thing. Unfortunately, that graduation was during COVID, and we had to watch him online. He was at the house watching them give out the certificates online. So everybody that graduated in 2020, regardless of where they were cheated. But he earned it. He worked hard. And then also he serves at Merrill Lynch. He's been an advisor. He has all the Series license, the Series 6, the Series 7, the 63, 66, and the 9 and 10. And if you've never dug into that, that's a small club worldwide that has those certificates. They're very difficult to get, or those licenses. They're very challenging, very, very difficult. So he has worked hard to attain those, and he was an advisor for a number of years with Merrill Lynch, and now he is a supervisor over, about 60 employees, and he has his responsibility. He's in the Chattanooga office, but he has to travel monthly to Huntsville, Knoxville, and Nashville, and in the Johnson City. They changed that. So Nashville, Knoxville, and Huntsville. So he's well qualified in this area.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. So one of the things that I wanted to just kind of touch on is, and I know some of you are already business owners, but maybe some of you aren't. I think some of the things we need to keep in mind is when you put together a business plan, you're putting together the business plan because you're trying to convince somebody else of what your vision is. Right? When you have a vision and you're looking for resources, you're looking for financing, when you walk up to a bank, Ms. Carla, I'm sure you know this, when you walk up to a bank, they want to know, okay, tell me more than just, hey, this is the name of my company. They want to see projections. They want to see what your vision is. They want to see what your goals are in the first year, first 5 years, first 10 years. So what I did was I created just a simple business plan template. You should have received one, when you walked into the class, and if you're online, you should be able to have that link. So I just want to go over this really quickly. This is not an exhaustive business plan. This is something really that anybody can put together that can help you get started, right? This is something that you could walk into a bank with and say, hey, here is my business plan. This is what I'm planning on doing. This is why I need X amount of dollars for a loan or what have you, okay? So one of the most important things you can have in that business plan is something called an executive summary. So you can see there, the executive summary is undeniably the most critical section of your business plan. It provides a concise overview, including key elements such as the business concept, mission, vision, and market opportunities, offered products and services, financial projections, and noteworthy achievements or milestones. So I'm sure you guys have heard the saying, everything is about the first impression. With your business plan, your executive summary is your first impression. Most of the time, if that first part isn't perfect, if it isn't catchy, if it's not going to catch their attention, they're not going to end up reading the rest of it. So your executive summary has to be very, very clear and concise. It has to be so clear that somebody could just read the executive summary and get excited about your vision, right? Because that's the whole goal, right? Is to get excited about your vision, right? If I'm an investor and you come to me wanting me to invest into your company, I have to get excited by what you tell me. I have to get excited about what I read, right? So the executive summary is important. So I created a company called Kingdom Athletic Shoe Store here in the Chattanooga area. Again, this is just a fake company here in the area. I do not have any goals of opening up a shoe store. Maybe the Lord is telling me something. I don't know, but yeah. So when I created this, that's what I was thinking about. So Kingdom Athletic Shoes strives to be the premier store in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Our focus will be to provide the very best shoes and apparel for high school and college age athletes. One of the things about an executive summary you need to know is you need to identify who your target audience is in the executive summary. You can go into more detail later in the business plan, but right away, that investor needs to know who is it that you're targeting, okay? We aspire to operate with integrity and provide quality at fair prices. By year 3 of operations, our goal is to do at least $2 million a year with annual expenses of $1.2 million a year for a profit margin of $800,000. Right away, after I identified my target audience, now I'm identifying how much money and what I'm projecting to make and what I'm projecting to spend. Again, you can go into more detail later down the road, but go ahead and hit it up front, okay? Our company will function as an LLC with at least 2 named owners. Why is that important? It's important because the investor needs to know when the bill comes due, who am I calling to get my money back, right? So you need to identify that in the business plan right away. Hey, I'm going to have 2 other owners, myself and whoever, right? Myself and my wife, Tanya Doyley. We're also going to be an LLC, so we're going to be a limited liability company, which I'm sure Pastor will talk to you about that at some point. There's different types of businesses that you can operate, right? There's LLCs, there's S corps, there's sole proprietorships, there's different ways you can do business. And so as an LLC, I'm taking the liability off of me and leaving it on the business. So if at any point, let's say I sell somebody a defunct shoe and they want to sue me for $1 million because I gave them a defunct shoe even though it wasn't my fault, they'll sue the business. They can't touch my personal. That's the difference between an LLC and all the other operations. All right. So then we go next to the next section of a business plan. Is called the problem and solution. You have to identify the problem, right? So if an investor asks you, we already have 5,000 shoe stores within 30 miles. There really is no problem. You have to convince that person that there actually is a problem, and then you actually have a solution to that problem, okay? So this is what I wrote. Within the Chattanooga, Tennessee area, there are 10 public high schools and 3 universities. I'm identifying my target audience again that have multiple sports that require shoes and sports apparel in order to compete at the highest level of their respective sport. Those of you who were athletes at one point, or you have children that are athletes, their feet are probably the most important aspect of their bodies as athletes, right? So as a shoe apparel company, I'm going to make sure I offer the very best shoes at the very best quality at the best price for those athletes. Okay. According to data research, there are only 2 other sports apparel shops that provide what we will offer, but they are limited in scope into how they promote and to their ability to offer group discounts. Big box chains typically can't do, they can only do but so much because they are backed by another source, another entity of stockholders and shareholders that are expecting profit, right? So they can't cut prices. They can't discount the way a smaller store can, right? So that's what we would offer. So the problem is they could go to let's say an Academy Sports or a Dick's Sporting Goods and buy, the latest pair of Jordans to play basketball in at $200. Well, if I can go directly to the supplier and know that Jordans are only made for about $25 a pair, and I can sell my Jordans for $100 a pair, you see the difference? Whereas they have to pay that overhead price. So I'm identifying the problem that the quality shoes tend to cost more at big box retailers. My solution is, because I'm a smaller entity, I don't have the corporate shareholders, over me telling me I have to make this much amount of profit margin. I can sell my shoes at a discounted rate and solve that problem within the high schools and within the colleges. Okay? We have the flexibility to create a business model that not only matches their product offerings, but can beat their prices without the corporate overhead. The next section of your business plan, you got to identify that target market. Okay? Who is your target market? Who are you going after? right? You know, Miss Carla, as a nurse with her business, what she's doing is targeting herself to people that need help with their health, right? She's not going to those people that, you know, that doesn't need any health services. She wants people that need her, you know, for what she does, right? So it's the same thing with your business plan. Who is your target market? My target market is the high school students. There are 30 high schools or 10 high schools in the city. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make sure I'm at the football games. I'm going to make sure I'm at the basketball game. I'm going to make sure I'm on the baseball fields and the soccer fields with a shirt that says Kingdom Shoes with my advertisement on the back, so they know who I am. That's my target market. Okay? So make sure you identify your target market. So when you're putting your business plan together, make sure the vision that you have is not to make money. Your vision is to help people. A true vision statement is about others, not about yourself. I don't know if you want to write that down, but a true vision statement is not about helping yourself, it's about helping others. The most successful companies are always focused on other people. All right? Now the next section of the business plan should talk about your competition. Who is your competition? Right? My competition is Dick's Sporting Goods, it's Hibbett Sports, it's Academy Sports, it's Foot Locker in the mall, and Finish Line, and even Walmart can be my competition, you know, to some extent. Target can be my competition to some extent because they offer what I'm selling, even though they offer different products, but within the same space. Right? So within the Chattanooga marketplace, the main competitors are the big box retailers, as I mentioned before. They each have 2 locations within the city limits, and I did look at, and I know that because I go to those stores all the time, and they each average over $25 million in revenue each year. I'm sure they average a lot more than that. I just put a number on there. They excel in the multi-sport space and offer a variety of products for each sport. So when you go into an Academy Sports, when you go into a Dick's Sporting Goods, they have every sport there. So they're not a specialty in any one sport. My focus is on what's only offered at a high school or a college. Right? Not every high school in Chattanooga offers golf, so I'm not really concerned with golf. Every high school in Chattanooga offers basketball, football, baseball, soccer, volleyball. That's my focus. That's my niche market. Niche marketing means I'm only going after a certain segment of a larger group. Right? So, you know, Pastor Steve mentioned earlier that I used to be an advisor, right? So as an advisor at the firm I used to work for, or that I work for now that I'm in a different role, but as an advisor, I had a niche market of clients that I was looking for. In my space that I played in, you had to have $250,000 of assets or more in order for me to possibly become your advisor. There are people that have $5,000 and they have $10,000 and they have $1,000. I didn't play in that space. That wasn't my niche market. My niche market was people that were wealthy or considered ultra high net worth, which is $250,000 or more. Those are the only clients that I could talk to as a member of the firm that I currently work for. Okay, so that's why you have to identify your niche market, and then identify who your competitor's niche market is. That's another way you can find some wins there. All right. Next is the marketing tactics. How are you going to advertise? The great thing about today is you can do a lot of free advertising by the power of social media. We can actually use social media for something good, right? As opposed to something negative. You have a lot of free tools at your disposal that we didn't have 15, 20, even 10 years ago. Those of you who are business owners or have business, you know you had to spend money on everything as a business owner before. Now, you just start an Instagram page or a Facebook page or what have you, and you could be advertising your business through that. So, again, advertising through commercials and local print ads, working with local schools to sponsor uniforms and offer discounts for products and services. You go to most of the high schools and colleges here in this area, really anywhere in the country, you're going to see they're going to have ads on their walls, right? Insurance agents and banks and whatever the case may be, because that's the way they advertise. So if I'm a parent walking into my child's high school, as I do now, when I walk into Chattanooga Christian, to see my daughters play volleyball, there's 50 different companies on the wall that all have paid a little bit of money. They put some skin in the game, hoping to get a return, right? So we have to have proper marketing tactics in order for us to make an impact with this business plan. Because again, the investor is going to want to know, how are you going to make money? Okay, you want $2 million from me to invest into your company. How are you going to make this money back? Not only to make yourself money, but to pay me back the $2 million that I gave you. So you have to have a sound marketing plan for that investor to look at you and say, okay, you know what? I trust that you could make this $2 million back over 5 years, over 10 years, whatever the life of the loan is. All right. Timeline of measurements of metrics. Okay. These can vary, right? It depends on your business model. It depends on what type of business you're doing. For me, because I'm in sales as a shoe company, I'm going to track month over month business, right? What did I do in January as opposed to February? What did I do in January as opposed to April, right? I'm looking at month over month. How have I grown, or have I become stagnant? Because how you measure something is how you determine what level you go to next. Okay, so if you're not measuring where you are, and that's a personal revelation, I hope, for somebody, right? You should be measuring yourself daily, right? Making sure that you are growing. And it's the same way in business. So as a business owner, if let's say I did 200,000 in sales in January, but I only did 150,000 of sales in February. Well, there's some things we have to take into consideration, right? January, probably some of those January sales are tied to the holiday season you just came out of. February also has 2 less days in it, or 3 less days than January. So you have to be able to determine those things when you're making your decisions in terms of tracking and really seeing whether or not you're growing. Right now, if you have 4 or 5 months of continued decrease based off of that January 200,000 that you made, and it keeps going down, then you probably need to readjust your figures, right? If you believe that you set a marker of, my goal is to make 100,000 every month from now until the summertime, but you didn't do that, well, probably in month 4, you probably need to back up and punt and say, okay, hey, maybe I need to change my projections for the rest of the year so that I don't shoot myself in the foot, right? Because remember, we're making projected plans with the money that we haven't made yet. So if that investor is going to give you that $2 million that you need to pay back in 5 years, and you told that investor in year 1, I'm going to be able to pay you back, let's say $250,000 of that money, right? But you yourself haven't even made $100,000 after you pay your employees, after you pay your light bill, after you pay your rent. You got to remember, all those other expenses are there, right? Which we'll cover in the monthly budget here in a bit. But we have to be able to track that month over month to make sure that we are following the path that we laid out for ourselves, okay? And then last but not least, you got to make the ask, right? So many people get to that line, they do all this work, and then they just walk away from the meeting. Okay, well, just think about it, let me know. No, you gotta ask. There's a lot of money out there that people are willing to invest in. You just have to you have to convince them that you're the person that they need to invest in. Has anybody ever seen the show Shark Tank? Yeah. So on Shark Tank, you can't go up there half-stepping. You've got to go with a plan. You know what I mean? Like, they are all expecting you to walk up there with a plan. And they'll look you in your face and say, well, you know what, I just can't invest in you right now. For whatever the reason, right? That's why the business plan is so important. If you watch that show, every one of those people had to have a business plan. And it was by the strength of the business plan, whether or not one of those 5 judges said, I got you. I'm going to invest X amount of dollars in you. So you got to have a good business plan. You got to have a strong ask. So my ask is this: as a new business starting in the market with a need for retail space of at least 5,000 square feet, purchase of inventory, and other costs of business expenses, we are seeking an initial infusion of startup capital of $5 million to start with. After our first 2 years of projected revenue earnings, we may seek an additional infusion of capital to be determined at a later date. Investors that invest money will always invest more money when they see that your product is successful. Always. Because they know the more money they give you, and they're willing to give you, they know the more money they're going to get on return. That's all investors care about. They want a return on investment, ROI. Write that down, return on investment. That is one of the most important statements that you will know in business. Return on investment. That's all they care about. Everybody that's in the stock market, that's all they care about is return on investments. They don't want to hear about this company tanking or this CEO died, or they don't care about all that. They want to know, I put $100,000 in Apple. In 5 years, I want that 100,000 to turn into 200,000. That's all they care about. They don't want 100,000 in Apple today, and in 5 years, it's worth 80,000. That's not good for business, right? So when you're talking about your company, your vision that God gave you for a company, your goal should be, whatever I ask for, I need to make sure that I can deliver what I've asked for, because I need to come back to that investor with a 2%, even if it's a 2% increase of what they gave you, they'll gladly give you more money because they see the potential, okay? So we just need to keep that in mind. Any questions about the budget plan template? So what we are planning on, by the last class, we would ask that you guys would have a business plan created. Using these, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 subcategories. I want you to create a business plan, whether it's as Pastor Steve said earlier, whether it's a business you already have, or it's a business that you've been thinking about. Maybe this is the push that you need to go ahead and get something down on paper. I wrote a business plan for a company probably about 10 years ago. And I actually brought it up to Tanya probably like 3 months ago. And she said, baby, you should do it. And the business would probably take about $20 million of infused capital in order for me to get it off the ground. That's what's scaring me from doing it. I'm just being honest, right? The $20 million is a big investment that it's going to be in my name, right? That's a little scary, right? But that's where faith comes into play, right? You know, the great thing about learning business principles from a faith perspective is we can't ever forsake the faith. It takes faith to do anything that we do. It took faith for Pastor Steve and Pastor Rita to go buy this building on the corner of this exit, a $7 million building at the time, now probably worth close to $20 million. It took faith for them to do that. It took faith for Steve Jobs to decide to create that Apple computer. It took faith for all that, even though he doesn't, believe in God. Whether he knew it or not, it was a God idea for him to do that. So that's where the business plan comes into play, because it enforces what the Bible says in Habakkuk chapter 2. This is proof that Habakkuk chapter 2 is real. Write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so that he who reads it may run. And though it tarries, wait for it. It will surely come to pass. That's the power of a business plan. Even if you never show it to an investor yet, you can go back and look at it and say, oh yeah, I had that dream a couple years ago, and I wrote a business plan for it. Maybe this is the time for me to launch and do it. That's the power of a business plan. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know, let Pastor know. We'll be happy to help you. If you need some direction on something, you have any further questions like, hey, I need some help cultivating this, please let me know. I'll be happy to sit down and talk with you on that. If you don't have a business that you've been thinking about, right, make up a company. Like I said, I have no desire to open up a shoe store. I just made up this company. But really the purpose of this is to help you to dream. Imagine if you start this process and you didn't have anything that you were thinking of, and you decided to start this process, and out of it birthed something in you where you felt like, whoa, maybe I could do this. Maybe I have what it takes to actually accomplish this. Maybe God's wanting you to do this assignment because he's wanting to birth something in you that is needed in the earth realm today. Maybe somebody's waiting on you to write this business plan and then actually execute the business plan, and they walk into your store, into your practice, into your whatever, and they said, I've been waiting on you for 10 years. Whatever that product is, you just never know. That's the way God works sometimes. So write the business plan by the last class, turn it in, and we'll go from there. All right, let's look at the monthly budget. First and foremost, do we have any questions about this before we move on? Everybody understand the assignment? Anybody have questions on that piece? All right, cool. Online, anybody have any questions? Trav, any questions? All right, cool. All right, let's look at the monthly budget. So this was a template. I did not put these figures in here. So please don't go off of the numbers. This is more just an example of what you need to be looking for as you get started in your monthly budget, okay? So as you can see on that first page, you have the estimated numbers, right? So that's what is estimated that you'll actually do, or estimated of what you were expecting, and then the actual is next to that. And then it shows you the difference. The reason why we need to track it like this is because, again, you don't want to overshoot your projections, right? So if the first month you estimated, man, I'm going to make $63,000, and then you only made $7,500. First of all, that's nothing to sneeze at. Let's say this was your first month of operations, and you made $7,500 in your first month. That's nothing to sneeze at, right? So don't get discouraged. At least you know, okay, well, sorry, $57,000. So you have a difference of $5,800. That's not bad in your first month. Again, let's say this is the first month of operation in your business, okay? What we need to be able to do is, okay, what do we need to do to adjust and meet that projection for the next month? So if I projected $63,000, do I need to lower my projection for the next month? Or do I need to keep it and say, you know what, by faith, I'm going to reach it, right? And if by faith we're going to reach it, that means we got to put some legs to our faith. That means we may need to spend some more money on marketing. That means we may need to get out to more of the colleges and universities to promote our brand and get more people through the door, right? So there's different ways that you can adjust that difference, whether it's by your actions or whether it's by what you do, okay? Personal expenses, again, that's just something you can look at, estimated expenses and an actual. And then operating expenses. Believe it or not, operating expenses is the most expensive thing that you will have on your budget. More than your rent, more than whatever the case may be, operating expenses typically in rule, that and personnel expenses are typically the two greatest expenses you'll have in a business, okay? Maintenance and repairs, supplies, rent or mortgage tax, and advertising. All of these are what you actually paid for the month. And then if you look over to your right, there's a line there that says 15% reduction. What that means is if you were to reduce these expenses by 15%, that's how much money at the bottom, $2,895, would be what you would save per month if you were to figure out a way to reduce those monthly expenses by 15%. So for instance, if you were to be able to reduce your advertising budget from the $2,500 that you spent in January, and you lowered it down to, what's that, $22.25, I believe. If you were to reduce it $375, then you would have more money at the end of the month than what you spent last month. Okay? So is that necessary? You can look at it one or two ways, right? You're projecting the next month out, or you can just be like, hey, you know what? This is what I budgeted for. I'm going to keep it at that budget regardless, right? If you plan on spending $1,000 a month in advertising, you know that's just a check you're going to have to write every month, right? Now, if business is flowing and everything is good, maybe some months you can adjust that a little bit. Maybe I can spend $800 a month instead of $1,000. So that's what that line means. So just keep that in mind as you're putting together your budget, okay? Next page, looking at the income. So this is showing you what your net sales were. Now, obviously, this is minus the gross, okay? Then your interest income, and then your asset sales, gains, and loss. So for instance, if I have a pair of Jordans and I'm spending $25 a pair, well, it probably would be more than that. It takes $25 to make the shoe. It probably takes another $15 to $20 to ship it here. Stickers and tags and all that. Let's say I have $75 in the shoe, right? And I turn around and sell it for $125. What's my profit margin? Dollar-wise. $50, right? So that $50 will go in this asset sales as gains minus what I had to spend. So I made $50, so I'll make $50 a shoe. Right? That doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're selling to 10 high schools and also 3 universities, you won't get all that business. But let's say you have a target, you have a goal of, I want to get 25% of all the business. Well, you do the math on that. It's not too bad, right? And that's just one pair of shoes. That's not counting the socks and the underwear and the knee pads and elbow pads and all the other stuff that you need. You can do pretty well for yourself. All right. Next page. Personnel expenses. Again, one of the most costly expenses you'll have is paying wages, right? Remember what I said in my business plan. I'll have 2 employees besides myself and my wife as owners. It's just reality, but most business owners don't make a dime the first year or 2. It's just what it is, right? Not all the time. I'm not saying that has to be the norm. We're kingdom people, so we believe differently. But the stats say most business owners don't turn a profit for themselves. They don't take a profit for themselves the first year, sometimes even the first 2. Okay? But we're paying wages. So we estimated that we're going to pay $9,500 in wages a month, right? For 2 employees, that's a lot of money, but I digress. And you actually paid $9,600. Then you got to look at employee benefits. That's where you, as a manager, you have to decide if you have a part-time employee, are you going to pay them benefits? They're not required to have benefits as a part-time employee. These are the things you need to know as a business owner. If they are a full-time employee, then there's some benefits that they have to have, right? By law. Commission. Are you going to pay commission? Are you going to have a flat rate? As a shoe store owner, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to pay somebody commission to sell shoes. In demographics 30 and under, shoe sales right now, you can make a killing working at Foot Locker if you work it right. If you become the plug for the latest shoe, people are going to come to you because they know you're going to hold a pair of the latest Jordans or the latest Kobe's or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to pay you a commission for that because I know you're going to get those shoes sold, at the right price. Okay. And then last but not least is the actual full the full budget. So as you can see, again, you always have estimates, right? What are you estimating that you're going to have to spend per month for these different expenses, right? Some of these are fixed. Some of these, they're not an estimate. You actually know. Like your rent's going to be $3,000. That's not going to change unless you have an agreement with the owner of the property that says after 12 months, after 2 years, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? So those are fixed expenses. But there are some expenses on here that may fluctuate that you need to estimate, and in that way you can track month over month. Hey, this month I saved $470. Praise God. That sounds like a little bit, but that $470 will go a long way, right? So the next month you should try to beat that. Okay, I say $470 this month, maybe next month I could say $500, right? And that gives you an opportunity to be able to just see the difference happen for you. Okay, so again, what I would like for you guys to focus on is the last page. If you don't do anything else, I want you to focus on the last page in terms of putting together the budget. And the reason why is the other pages are really for your benefit, but what we would like for you to turn in on the last day is this page. So when you got it from Miss Rachel, I don't know if it was editable. We need to try to get you an editable copy, so that way you can go in there and change the figures. Or you can you can just Google business plan template, and you can find a blank one and just put in your own figures. Again, match it with your business plan. So if you plan on having a per month cost basis of, you're going to spend $20,000 a month in expenses. Okay, use that $20,000 under your estimated here. Make sure it gets down to $20,000, and then estimate it, and then make up mock numbers, obviously, on the actuals, and then see what happens. Okay, and then go from there. Any questions at all? All right, I'm gonna turn it back over to Pastor Steve.
And we're saying business, but if you remember, first semester, we dreamed and talked about goals and that people had. So perhaps you have a ministry. You want an unwed mother's home. You want a place for children. you can do a business plan on those things, whatever it is that's in your heart. And again, Pastor Tony said, maybe you don't have one, but the Lord's going to use this to birth something, or you know somebody that has one. So help put it together, and it might be something they can use. And again, this is just an exercise. This class is maximizing your potential, and we want to cover a few business principles along the way. So that is the purpose of this assignment, to get you dreaming and thinking. I know Miss Catherine's just written a book, and she's working on another book. So you can do a business plan on how to market that book. You could have an online store, and those are easier to do today than they used to be. There's all kind of things that we can do. So I want you to dream a little bit. Does that make sense? Questions, ideas, comments, complaints. Tony is the complaint department. Take all those to him or to Pastor Travis. Okay.
So I have a friend that she's a business owner. She's an entrepreneur.
Use the mic, yeah. You
She's
have a
an
question. You have a
entrepreneur,
friend, okay?
And she has an online boutique. I didn't know this, but there are opportunities depending on how much you want to have vested in your first year. There are business grants that you can obtain versus a loan.
There's all kind of grants. There's grants. There's minority grants. There's grants for women. It's easier for a woman to get a business loan or a grant than a man. Minorities. There's just all kind of funds available for those things. And
I'm looking at that more than having to pay somebody back.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you can get a grant, and in Chattanooga, you can talk to Pastor Tony later. But there are several organizations in the city that have, and they're small. Most of them are small. They may be 5,000 up to about 50,000. What do you call those? There's a angel fund, seed grants. There's things like that, and they're not huge, but you might get 2 or 3 of those and get started. So there's all kinds of ideas, and God created us to be all that we can be, and so many times we limit ourselves. I know people. When you're in high school, junior high school, and even in college, and even when you first get married or you're out of school, we have all these dreams and plans. And then we get a job, and so we need a car. So we buy a car, and then we get a payment. And then you get a house, and you've got a rent or lease or a payment. And then you get married, and then you have a child. And all of a sudden, you're living and you're doing life, but some of the dreams that we had get buried along the way just trying to survive. And God wants us to do more than survive. He wants us to thrive. And we're never too old. I know Keith is just retired, and he's enjoying fishing and enjoying life. Just did a cruise, and I wish I could have gone with you, man. I would have enjoyed that. I love cruises. But Harlan Sanders didn't start Kentucky Fried Chicken until he was 65. And became very, very wealthy and famous. And I saw somewhere the other day, what do you call it? Not an imitator, but somebody that impersonator. There was a Harlan Sanders impersonator, dressed like him, had the little white goatee beard and the whole thing. But dream. You're healthy. You're young. Dream. You still got a lot of life. Who knows what God wants to do? And here's what we used to say when Keith and I were young. I wish I knew then what I know now. Well, here's the good news. Good news. You know now what you didn't know then. So as you dream, who knows what God will give you, what God will do. Does that make sense? You Google grants and you'll get all kinds of things. I would recommend that you talk to Dottie Smith here in the church. Talk to Amy Mann. She used to write grants for Teen Challenge. They've both written grants, and there's somebody else that's written grants.
So there's a couple ways you can do it. There are things called startup funds that are here in the city. Chattanooga is actually one of the largest philanthropic cities in the world. and one of the largest investor-led cities in the world, where there's a Southeast Business District, which is on the North Shore. They have grants you can walk in and fill out an application for, as long as you have a business plan and they believe in your business. They give away $2,500, $5,000, $10,000. There's the Community Foundation of Greater Chattanooga that are looking for female business owners, and they have female grants that they will give to you if you have a solid business idea, just because you want to start your
They're
own
not
business.
female grants. They're grants for females.
Sorry, grants for females. Sorry, grants for females. That they are looking for females that want to open their business. It's called the Chattanooga
Community.
It's called the Community Foundation of Greater Chattanooga. Yeah, you can just look it up online. There's so much that's just two that I know of offhand.
And there are
everywhere.
grants, or there are foundations that will give multi-million-dollar grants. I mean, large grants. And yeah, when we started the church, we wrote a grant. It was a small grant for $50,000 to purchase television equipment because we wanted to be on TV, and we wrote a grant. It was a 16-week training program that we did for community at-risk young people, and so we advertised. We brought them in. We trained them. We actually received the grant. We got $48,000 and change on the grant, so we were able to purchase equipment. We trained the students, and then once we got through with the 16 weeks, we did a job fair, and we invited the television stations. We had all three of the major networks plus TBN and Fox. We had 5 stations there. They came and met with our students that we had trained, and like 5 or 6 of them got hired. It was not a large class. It was maybe 12 or so in the class, and nearly half of them got a job at a television station. And we got the grant, and the grant lets you keep the money for doing the work. So there's all kinds of opportunities, to help the community, to help people, and to be able to get a grant to do that. We wrote a grant. I thought we were going to get it. We were doing quite a few of these early on, and we wrote a grant to do AIDS testing in Uganda. And I had all the network, all the people on the ground there. Pastor Robert Keanja, his church is there. He had doctors there in his church that were going to help us. I had a Nigerian doctor here in our church at the time. He was from Nigeria, but he was living in Chattanooga, working at a hospital, and he agreed to go and be the person over that center in Uganda. And we had all the qualifications, and we ended up not getting it. We were like second or third place. I don't remember now how, but we were very close, but we didn't get it. It was a $2 million grant for 1 year, and we would have been able to put people to work, minister to people, preach the gospel to them. In Uganda, it's just free. You can preach the gospel. They come in, you give them flyers, you pray over them. And of course, we had the network of the church there, a local church. Actually, there's about 3 local churches I'm connected to, but Pastor Keanja was the largest one. He's got something like 50 or 60,000 members. So, but we didn't get that grant. But my point is, there are plenty of grants available, and there are grants that are already written and available, and you can look at them just like that one and see, am I willing to do this? This is what they provide the money for. Can I take this and do this and make it work and fit my model? So several ways to do it. Let's jump into our notes for tonight. This is the outline tonight is on your assignment and uncommon faith. I won't have time to go through all of this. We just have a few moments, but I want to hit some highlights tonight. And I want to tell you, you have an assignment. How many have ever said, I know God has a purpose for me? How many know what that purpose is? You figured it out. You know what your purpose is in life. That's awesome. And sometimes there's more than one thing you're supposed to do. And as we go through life, as we age, we have seasons, and we go through things, and each season builds on the last season. And sometimes we even shift gears. We change directions. But you have an assignment, and I want you to understand how important that is. Sometimes we go through life and we just live. We go through the motions, we live, we get a job, we get married, we have a family, and all that's fine, that's okay. But sometimes we forget that this is a spiritual war that we're in. between good and evil. And it's not equal. It's not a fair fight. We know who wins. God is greater than any fallen angel, any demonic entity that he created. He's going to win. But we're in a battle. We're in a war. And you have an assignment. 1 Corinthians 7:20 says, let each one remain in the same calling in which he was called. So your assignment is your purpose. Everything God created is a solution to a problem. God created your physical body with a purpose, your spiritual man with a purpose. Our assignment with our physical body is to keep it healthy. Our spiritual assignment is to to solve the problem of whatever we're faced with. So your assignment is always to a person or to a people. Your assignment may be to a group of people, a certain segment of society, or it may be to a people group. Missionaries go to countries, they go to continents. So you have an assignment, and it's to somebody. Jeremiah 1:7, but the Lord said to me, do not say I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command. Paul understood this. He said, I'm appointed as a preacher, an apostle, and a teacher of the Gentiles. Your assignment determines the challenges that you have. The greater your assignment, the greater the challenge. I have good news for you. As you grow and mature, your problems get harder. They get greater. And once you get where you're solving problems, you're going to have some greater ones. That's just the name of the game. You were created for battle, created for conflict. You were built for battle. I say that often. You were created to solve problems. 2 Timothy 1:12, for this reason I also suffer these things. There's going to be some pain in life. There's going to be some suffering. Nevertheless, he said, I am not ashamed, for I know whom I have believed, and I am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I have committed unto him until that day. Whatever grieves you is a clue to what you are assigned to heal. You have a burden, you struggle with something that's going on in the world, God's probably called you to care about that, to help solve the problem, to make a difference. Pastor Keith served at Teen Challenge for many years. He's got a calling. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it bothers you to see people strung out on drugs when they can be free. So he's given his life many years to help setting them free. Carla, same thing, serving in the medical field. You want to help people get better. You see how they can be better, and it grieves you to see people struggling with their health, their weight, their diet, all the things. So you want to help them. So God's created you with an assignment to help heal those that are in your world. And here's another one. What you love the most reveals the greatest gift that you contain. You should not, let me say this loud and clear. I'll even stand up. You should not spend your life doing something that you hate. Don't spend your life being miserable, wishing you had another job doing something else. What do you like to do? What are your gifts? The gifts that God gave you are to solve problems in a certain area, in a certain arena. So use whatever you love. It reveals the greatest gift that you contain. So work in that area. Your assignment may also be geographical. Sometimes God calls you to a specific place. Not always. 1 Thessalonians 4 says, for this is the will of God concerning you, even your sanctification. So God's will for you is to be sanctified, to live righteous, to live holy, to serve Him wherever you are. But sometimes God speaks specifically and He says, go here, go to Chattanooga. I mean, we've got people moving into Chattanooga right now, coming to this church that came here not knowing anybody, having no family here. I met 2 families Sunday that said, we just prayed and here we are. We came to Chattanooga. God's sending people to certain places, to certain locations. And we see that in Deuteronomy chapter 12. But in the place which the Lord chooses, in one of your tribes, there you shall offer your burnt offerings, and there you shall do all that I command you. So at times, God places you in a certain place. Go there. Do what He's called you to do. Listen to Him. Be sensitive to His Spirit, to His voice, where you are. Number 7, your assignment requires seasons of preparation. You can't just show up and all of a sudden you're the best at it. It takes time. Everybody here Dr. Gloria, she went to school and got a degree, got a doctorate degree to do counseling, to help people. You may have a natural bent toward listening and helping people, but you spend time getting qualified. Staying at a Holiday Inn Express is not good enough to be a heart surgeon. They advertise crazy stuff like that. But your assignment requires seasons of preparations. So spend time getting ready. Do your research. Jesus spent 30 years in preparation for a 3.5-year ministry. Luke 3:23. Number 8, your assignment may be misunderstood. Jesus experienced this. Even his brothers did not believe him. Judas and Doubting Thomas are probably in your family. I know I have some in my family. But sometimes surviving family prepares you for the future. Number 9, your success goes to another level when your assignment becomes priority. When you figure out your purpose and your priority, it goes to another level. God will help you get there. This explains Paul's uncommon achievement, Philippians 3. Number 10, uncommon faith is required to walk out your purpose. So you have an assignment, but you also have faith. God gave you a measure of faith when you were born. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God. Faith can be imparted, Romans chapter 1. So uncommon faith is required to walk out your purpose. We know faith moves mountains. Faith shuts down when you begin to consider other options. James 1:8, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So unused faith is a tragedy. Fear is the enemy of faith. And doubt produces tragedy like faith produces miracles. So let your faith operate. Your greatest enemy is the one who feeds your doubt, but your greatest friend is the one that breathes life into your faith. So I say dream and let faith operate and see what God will do. Amen? All right. And I have run out of time again. It was fast. I ran through it, but please look over those notes. There's a lot of detail there. There's scriptures. I just kind of hit the highlights in lieu of time. But for your assignment for the end of the semester, and we're about halfway now, a business plan and a budget. Questions? All right. Thank you. God